Hey everybody, stick around. We're going to talk about what upsets so many people about what Goodwill does in this video. Hey everybody, welcome back. Mike, the Golden State Picker. Got a nice video for you today. We're going to do it from the shed today. We usually do Motivational Monday from here, but today we're going to drop another video because I thought, hey, it's nicer to do it here than in the garage. The garage is always, a mess kind of thing. That's where I do what I found and what I sold. So if you're new to my channel, Wednesdays and Saturdays I do something different from my garage, show you what I found, what I sold, and occasionally I drop in here now that I got this set up. And I want to talk to you about reselling. And today we're going to talk about Goodwill. What is it that upsets so many people about what Goodwill does? That's basically what we're going to talk about. And I got this idea today from some of my reselling friends who are kind of getting upset because Goodwill is expanding, or they just found out about Goodwill, that they are now doing whatnot in my area, and it is affecting what they think is their reselling and all of that due to the bins, because now the bins are a little thin. Now, if you don't know what the bins are, it's kind of the last resort for anything that Goodwill sells. It ends up in a bins store. A lot of cities have them. San Jose, we got our first one. It's been about 6 months, maybe longer. I can't remember, August or so. And it basically brings stuff out and it's sold by the pound. And then if it doesn't sell from there, it goes generally to the garbage, or it gets bundled up in clothing and maybe sent overseas. So there's a lot of clothing pickers that are at these bins, and they are seeing that this whatnot action seems to be another funnel of income for Goodwill, and they are now siphoning even more stuff off, and the stuff that really is hitting the bins is really not that worth it. So interesting take. So I thought, let's do a video on Goodwill. I've done blurbs on them before, but a lot of people just don't understand Goodwill and how they work. So we're going to talk a little bit about how they work at first, and then we're going to go into some things that people think about Goodwill, and then we'll probably try and break down some of the numbers so you can actually see what a regional CEO makes from Goodwill, and you can make your own judgment. Let me know what you think of any of these points in the comments down below. This is just my opinion, okay? This isn't rock solid. It's just me discussing stuff that I feel is going on with Goodwill. And the numbers are taken off the web for sales and stuff like that. They could be off high or low, but they're probably fairly accurate, nothing majorly off. So we're going to get into that. So let's give you a little bit of a two-pronged approach, because some people are new. I want to talk about how Goodwill works as far as its structure. The Goodwill Industries has 150 regional areas throughout the United States. These regions are then run by regional CEOs. So there are 150 what they call regional CEOs. They are responsible for the finances, everything within their region. They may have 10 stores, 15, I don't know how many each one has. Each region can have CEOs who make more money than the others. That's very obvious. I'm in Silicon Valley, so it's very expensive to live here. So it makes sense that the CEO here makes some pretty decent money to run those regional CEO, the regional area. The other thing is we need to understand how Goodwill works for its money. Basically, it's a donation organization. Everything is donated. There are some things I think that they do purchase for selling and so forth, but in general, donations are their bread and butter. The donations come in, and from there they get funneled to maybe a regional hub. Some do not, because they're too far out. They may just be, stuff might just come out into the showroom automatically. But a lot of them, like my area, some of the stuff comes in, they sort it, they pre-sort, and they're doing a lot more pre-sorting. And by pre-sorting, I mean, if something looks valuable, it's going to go into a certain bin that is then going to go downtown to a hub, and from there it is going to be looked at. A lot of stuff is sorted. All the jewelry goes all the way into this sorting area, Look, gold price right now is $4,000 an ounce. Silver is 50. So a lot of this gold, there's a lot of it. Can you imagine how much gold is going into a Goodwill right now? It's got to be an amazing amount of money. And from there, it gets sorted into e-commerce, which is their eBay basically. It is an online shop, Goodwill. And from there, that stuff is sold at the most premium price in general. That is what they're hoping for. That obviously gold and stuff can be for more, but this is going to be the premium stuff, the e-commerce. From there, they sort down into the retail location. So it goes into the retail location, some good stuff, and then there's going to be some stuff that's left over that goes to what we call a Goodwill auction. A lot of these hubs will have auctions for stuff that is rejected at the e-commerce level and maybe rejected at the next level. Well, retail, it goes e-commerce, retail, then auction, okay? And from auction, there might be, between auction and e-commerce and retail, there's going to be somebody who's taking stuff for their new endeavor, which has been recently whatnot. So whatnot is the next thing. They're doing a lot of whatnots, and that's what they opened up here is a whatnot, and the people at the bins are a little bit, pushed out of shape because they're watching the whatnot show while they're inside the bin store. So it's pretty darn interesting. So it gets funneled down that way. Then it gets to the bins. And then from the bins, it's either garbage or it's either bundled. So that's how it works. So it's a big funnel at the top. By the time it hits down at the bottom, very, very little is left. It's very difficult to find quality items is what I'm getting at. So that's how the structure works overall for their region and also for what they sell. Okay, so what is it that upsets so many about what Goodwill does? I'm going to give you a couple points and what people say. Many people are surprised or upset when they learn that some regional Goodwill CEOs earn $400,000 to $900,000 a year. Even though these salaries are legal and approved by nonprofit boards, critics argue it feels excessive for a charity funded by donated goods and volunteer labor. Think about that, right? People sort of don't listen. Now here is the CEO of Goodwill. They're doing a news article interview, and they go, "Oh well, he makes $500,000 a year." They're going, "Oh, that's really reasonable." When you hear all these other people like Elon Musk and everything, but in reality, he's just one of 150. So it kind of gets out of balance in their head. We'll talk about the overall, what they make overall between 150 of them. So that is, kind of what goes on with that view. Critics will say, why should executives get paid like corporate CEOs when donations come from people who think they're helping the poor? That's what critics will say. Now, here's something in part in defense of Goodwill. And this is a very, very valid point. Each Goodwill is a large, self-sustaining, nonprofit business that employs thousands and generates hundreds of millions in revenue, and they need qualified leaders. Super valid point. You can't pay a CEO $15 an hour. It's not going to work. You got to get quality people, so you got to pay them. So, it's kind of a catch-22. They've got to do that, and I can completely concur with that. And that's the way that they are structured, and that's the way that they do it. And I'm in Silicon Valley, and I will tell you that it's very expensive here. I'll bet you that there's a large portion of the salaries in my community that are $400,000 a year, easily. Okay, very easily. So a CEO making a lot of money here, and it might just be average middle management type money. So we got to keep that in mind. We got to be fair on both sides, right? All right, corporate structure confusion. This is a good one. There isn't one single Goodwill. There are 150 independent regional Goodwill organizations, each with its own board, leadership, and finances. They all have to do that. So when people read about Goodwill CEO making $800,000, they often assume it's the same person across the country. We just talked about that. You see what I'm saying? They get a little confused, right? This structure causes confusion and inconsistency. One Goodwill might pay higher salaries. Another might reinvest heavily in programs. So it's all very different. They all are in charge of their own monies in their region. So keep that in mind. How about this one? Commercialization. This is a big one in my mind. Some people believe Goodwill has become too corporate, focusing more on sales and growth and on direct charitable aid. They seem like they're more like a retail outfit now than they do a charitable organization. They have a huge e-commerce subsection. They have a huge retail footprint. And it feels like, wow, they're a nonprofit, but they feel like they're not a nonprofit. So there's this this commercialization and feeling. Again, this is all about the looks and the feel of what people are feeling about what's going on with Goodwill, right? Online platforms like shopgoodwill.com and whatnot auctions make it look more like a for-profit retailer, is what a lot of people say. Critics say that the charity image doesn't match the retail experience or prices. Very interesting, right? We as resellers can understand what they're talking about here. And what I mean by that is, I've been only doing this 7 years, and I have seen the prices increase. And they increase with no reason at all. A lot of them are mismarked, mispriced, all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of different things that we see as resellers that make no sense. Now, the public is seeing the same thing. You know, they also are going, wait a minute. How many times you walk down an aisle in Goodwill and go, can you see what they're trying to ask for? I use this and this. You know, you can get a lot of this stuff at the dollar store for $1, and they want, you know, $4 for a spatula or $2.98 for a spatula. You kind of understand what I'm talking about there. So they have this image that is being portrayed now as more of a retail outlet than a charitable outfit, and that is a big thing for Goodwill. So again, on these 3 points, any of these points, leave a comment down below. Let me know how you feel about this. This is just my opinion, what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing, and I just want to make sure that everybody kind of gets a shot at it. So leave me a comment and let me know how you feel about this whole thing with Goodwill or Savers or Salvation Army. We're going to talk about that in a minute here with Salvation a little bit, because we're going to try to compare the numbers that Goodwill and Goodwill do. Goodwill and Salvation Army. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about sales between these companies. We're going to use Salvation Army just early on, and then we're going to break down Goodwill a little bit further. But anyhow, the Salvation Army did about $4.8 billion in a year from what I took from the web. It might be higher, but they helped 24 million people with 7,000 various centers. Okay, centers, it doesn't mean stores. I think they have 900 stores, but centers, they have 7,000. So they are very helpful. They have ARCs, which are addiction rehabilitation centers. So I understand how they work also, okay? Now, Goodwill did about $8.2 billion in sales. They help about 1.7 million people, 2,800 stores in the U.S., 3,200 in the entire continent of U.S. and Canada. So you can see the difference here. Goodwill is bigger on the retail side. Okay. Now, a lot of people will say the Salvation Army is considered bigger in terms of overall humanitarian social services impact. I see that also. I feel Salvation Army out there more. I feel like they are there when things are going bad, that kind of thing. They seem to be more humanitarian, social, all that kind of stuff. Not a knock on Goodwill. You're asking me about which two are better, right? So one has 900 stores, one has 2,800 stores. Salvation Army, I think, gets a lot of donations from people. So does Goodwill, but I think Salvation Army has a lot of big donors. So keep that in mind. Now, let's go into Goodwill and let's talk about what these CEOs are making. That's what everybody's kind of interested about, is what is this whole situation? How much do all these CEOs combine to make working for Goodwill? We've got 150 regional CEOs. The average salary of a regional CEO is about $278,000. Okay, so keep that in mind. When we multiply that out, we come out to close to $42 million for 150 employees. So 150 employees are splitting $42 million of the pie. Now it looks a little bigger, right? When you think about it, because this still is a big corporation. I haven't talked about the main CEO because I don't think he makes a whole lot of money. So I didn't even include him in there. But you got 150, so it's 42 million. So the number now feels bigger, right? They spent 42 million, but they got a big organization that does $8 billion in sales. They have to have people that run it, right? So again, okay, let me know what your feeling is on all that when you hear that number of $42 million, right? Now, another thing is let's compare it down to what my CEO makes in my area in general. In 2023, they say he made $601,000 in the regional of Silicon Valley. And I think there was some bonuses of maybe about 35. So let's call it about $640,000. In this valley for that type of person, I could see it. I'm not complaining. I mean, I think you could see that that might be something. He's got to live here, right? It's not cheap. So that's what he did, okay, in general, okay. Now, let's get down to another question a lot of people have. This money doesn't funnel down far. It really doesn't. I hate to say that. That's one of the worst parts of Goodwill. It doesn't funnel down to the bottom, which is the people at the store, the retail workers, the processors, all of that. Now, I understand it's a capitalist society. I get it 100%. It shouldn't be a career sometimes. Sometimes it can lead to bigger things. So we get that. Okay, but when you're talking about the average salary across the nation for a Goodwill retail or processing or any entry-level job is about $12 to $17 per hour. Far cry from $600,000 and all that. Just giving you my spin on it. Okay, so it doesn't really funnel down that far. That's another thing, is they feel like the people down at the bottom are not getting their just. I know that the individual store managers, they can get a piece of the pie. How? Whatever they send to e-commerce, their incentive is to get stuff to e-commerce. From there, whatever they sold, they track it, they get a percentage of. So that's how they keep the managers enforcing. And then if you don't give the managers anything, what is their incentive to sort, right? Yeah, it's part of the job, but they may let stuff go through. Okay, so keep that in mind. So that's where they incentivize the managers of the store. They come in and there's another general manager of the stores that are on top of them. So you can see this structure that goes up, right? It's funneling down, all this money is trickling down, but it's not trickling down to the very, very bottom, just like it's not trickling down all the way to the bins, okay? So let's get that in mind, keep that in mind. Now, another thing people talk about is us as resellers. A lot of people blame us for, complaining that Goodwill is taking the good stuff when they're doing exactly what we would be doing, and yeah, I can understand the feelings on that, okay, but we're not doing it to the extent that Goodwill is, okay? We're supporting families, we're supporting, the community in our area a little bit more. That's my take on it. And again, it's an opportunist thing. If it's there, I'm going to take it, that kind of thing. So I do understand that. But one of the fallacies that really drives me crazy is that a lot of people blame us resellers for jacking the prices up in Goodwill. That is not our fault, and I will explain why in a second. Now, we know Goodwill's prices have continued to rise, okay? We've seen it. Goodwill is just like every other business. They have to continue to make money or they're going to go out of business. So that's why they're doing whatnot now and whatever else they're trying to do. And that's why they're opening more stores. If they don't grow, they can be stagnant. If they don't get donations, they can be stagnant. So it's very, very tricky. Now, why do I say it's not resellers' fault? Okay. When was the first Goodwill e-commerce shop Goodwill opened? Most people don't know. Many do, but most don't. 1999. Where was that at? That was in Orange County, California. That's down by Disneyland. And it was Santa Ana. And it was one of their CEOs who got the idea from what? He got the idea from eBay. At the time, eBay was big. eBay was just starting out, was growing massively, was all over the news. You couldn't miss it. And this CEO of this one particular region saw it. And he said, hey, I think we can make that work too. And that's how it all started. Not because of resellers, okay? We didn't start picking all this stuff off. at first. It ended up being Goodwill itself. They learned, they watched, they listened. It's not just us. So anyhow, from there, that Goodwill started to teach other Goodwills how to do this Shop Goodwill. Get this. Shop Goodwill does $250 million annually now across all regions. And I think that's even low. I think it's going to be much higher than that if I had the real numbers. Who knows? It could be close to 300,000, right? So think about that. My region did about $100 million in, I think, just a few years back. Okay, so think about that. A lot of money going. I mean, I'm sorry. Let me rewind that. I think $100 million in sales. But I'm getting to the point here that Goodwill is what it is, and we are not going to change Goodwill. The only thing that will change Goodwill is if something Goodwill does and people just finally say we're fed up with it. We don't feel like our donations are going to the proper channels, all that kind of stuff. So a lot of people do get upset that they find out that a lot of their donations don't go into the local community. They go into Goodwill's e-commerce, and therefore that money then gets pushed around a little bit, basically what I'm saying. So when you think about it, is it fair? I don't know. Let me know down below in the comments what you feel about the whole Goodwill situation. I will tell you that I am a big Savers fan. There's a reason for that. Number one, I find that it's the most fair of all the thrift stores. And what I mean is, if something comes in the front door, it's usually going to come onto the floor at a price, and everybody has a shot at it. Poor, middle class, rich, whoever, you have a shot. That's what I'm saying with Savers. You know exactly what's going on, and they do donate some money to the charities and stuff like that. But they let you know up front that they are a for-profit company, and that's the difference. Goodwill, nonprofit, or are they skirting the line of a big retail outlet using their nonprofit as an advantage? Let me know in the comments down below. All right. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, please hit the subscribe, the like, and the bell notification. I try my best here just to give you information that I think is pertinent to what we're doing, and that kind of stuff. So we really do appreciate you. Just hit the like, the subscribe, and the bell notification. That's it. And look for me on Wednesdays and Saturdays, and some on Monday when I talk Motivational Monday. All right, super. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you in my next video.